Human performance technology and instructional design in the classroom. Students today are immersed in technology from an incredibly early age. From high-tech toys developed to stimulate infants, my first laptops for toddlers, to having their own iPads and smartphones at home and having their own tablets and Chromebooks in elementary school. Students are surrounded by technology. With students being so comfortable with using today's technologies, why not incorporate these technologies into the classroom to make learning more engaging and fun for students? Educators have a wide array of technology options at their fingertips just waiting to be added into their lessons. There are several ways that educators can determine how to use these technologies. Educators can use the Human Performance Technology Model and other instructional design models to decide what educational technologies to use in their classrooms. Educators can use these models to explore where their current lesson design level is at, visualize the level that they want their design to be in the future, and see where they have gaps in their lesson design so that they know what needs to be revised and upgraded. Technology in the classroom can be as simple as a textbook, videos, and educational websites to more high-tech things such as simulations, virtual reality, and augmented reality. This presentation explores human performance technology and instructional design models that educators can use to add educational technology into their classrooms. We will discuss what is human performance technology, what is instructional design models, and why use human performance technology and instructional design in the classroom. Let's begin by discussing what is human performance technology. Rothwell defines HPT as a systematic process of discovering and analyzing important human performance gaps, planning for future improvements in human performance, designing and developing cost-effective and ethically justifiable interventions to close performance gaps, implementing the interventions, and evaluating of the financial and non-financial results. Guerra Lopez defines HPT as a systemic and systematic set of processes for assessing and analyzing performance gaps and opportunities, planning improvements in performance, designing and developing efficient, effective, and ethically justifiable interventions to close performance gaps or capitalize on opportunities, implementing the interventions, and evaluating all levels of results. Both definitions are basically saying the same thing. The educator looks at what they are doing, Human performance technology has proven to be useful in healthcare, military, and other workplace environments as it was originally intended. But can HPT be used in the field of education? The answer is yes. Yes, it can. Pache believes that HPT can be applied to a variety of applications, including educational technology, and that the results will be effective and powerful. O'Driscoll refers to human performance technology model in his article and how HPT is a systematic approach to analyzing performance problems. Pache states a core principle of HPT is that it must start with identification of a performance problem, a gap between the actual and desired state of performance at the level of work, worker, or workplace. The HPT model includes selecting participants for appropriateness, preparing information for participants, design and delivery of information to participants, support and feedback, so the presenter can evaluate their information and make any revision. In human performance technology, you start with identifying a performance problem. In the classroom setting, this can be accomplished by the teacher giving a pretest to the class to see what they know about a subject. The next step in HPT is to see where the gap is between the actual and the desired state. The teacher in the classroom can take the scores from the pretest to see what students currently know and compare that to what they need to know about a subject. That is the gap that the teacher must teach her students to get them to the desired state, which would be the knowledge about the subject so that they can pass the test. Check out this video that further explains the HPT model. What is instructional design? Instructional design is the process of creating instructional materials by considering who the students are, how they learn, and what materials and methods will most efficiently teach these students. Educators use instructional design techniques to design learning materials that appeal to their students as well as achieve the desired outcome. There are three aspects that instructional designers are concerned with when considering instructional design: goals, instructional strategy, and evaluation. Goals are where you are going. Instructional strategies are how you will get there. And evaluation is how you know when you have arrived. Instructional designers also use learning theories and principles to help with designing. Learning theories include cognitive learning theory, behaviorism learning theory, and constructivism learning theory, to name a few. Cognitive learning theory uses metacognition, or the way people think. It is important to understand how students think to better prepare instruction for them to learn. Instructors can apply this theory by explaining their reasoning and encouraging self-reflection. Behaviorism learning theory is based on the theory that acquisition of behaviors is caused by environmental interactions or conditioning. Kurt states that learners are active participants in their learning and experience help to build knowledge in the constructivist theory. So now that we know a few of the learning theories behind instructional design, how do educators decide what is best to use in their classroom? Here are a few instructional design models that can be used to help educators decide what is best to use for their students in their classrooms. The first model is ADDIE, ADDIE. ADDIE stands for Analyze, Design, Develop, Implement, and Evaluate. Instructional designers use the ADDIE model to analyze the target audience and goals, design the class, develop the content to fit the design, implement the class, and evaluate for effectiveness and make sure any necessary revisions are made. The analysis phase focuses on the target audience and what goals need to be met after completing the course. The design phase uses info from the analysis to focus on determining the diverse types of media that will be used, resources that you have access to, and all the details to be successful. The next phase, the development phase, is when the instructional designer puts everything into action by developing the unique designs into working content by creating, buying, or borrowing content. The implementation phase is next and is the actual delivery of the lesson to the student. The last phase, which takes the longest time, is the evaluation phase and can be done throughout the entire ADDIE process. The evaluation phase is when you review the content of your lesson, determine if the goals were met, and make any revisions necessary to the lesson so that the goals can be achieved in the future. The first model is ADDIE, ADDIE. ADDIE stands for Analyze, Design, Develop, Implement, and Evaluate. Instructional designers use the ADDIE model to analyze the target audience and goals, design the class, develop the content to fit the design, implement the class, and evaluate for effectiveness and make sure any necessary revisions are made. The analysis phase focuses on the target audience and what goals need to be met after completing the course. The design phase uses info from the analysis to focus on determining the diverse types of media that will be used, resources that you have access to, and all the details to be successful. The next phase, the development phase, is when the instructional designer puts everything into action by developing the unique designs into working content by creating, buying, or borrowing content. The implementation phase is next and is the actual delivery of the lesson to the student. The last phase, which takes the longest time, is the evaluation phase and can be done throughout the entire ADDIE process. The evaluation phase is when you review the content of your lesson, determine if the goals were met, and make any revisions necessary to the lesson so that the goals can be achieved in the future. The backward design model of education technology gets its name because instead of starting by analyzing your learners like most other models, you start at the end and work your way back. Educators start by identifying the desired outcomes of their lessons. What do you want your students to be able to do after they complete the lesson? Start with that question and then move on to the next step, determining how you will assess their learning. How will you know if your students have met the outcomes of the lessons? The last step, after you have decided on your lesson objectives and how you are going to assess the objectives being met, is planning your lesson. Decide what materials, media, and technologies you are going to use in your lesson to achieve your desired outcomes. Schneider gives the example of preparing lessons for students based on local, state, and national standards for the use of the backward design. The next model is Bloom's taxonomy. Rule states that Bloom's taxonomy is a system of hierarchical models used to categorize learning objectives into varying levels of complexity. In this model, students progress from lower order to higher order thinking as they move through the levels of thinking skills. The levels increase in complexity the higher you move up. The levels include, from lowest to highest, knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. At the lowest level, knowledge, students can recall information that they received during learning. When they move up to the comprehension level, students start to take the knowledge that they learn and process it to make sense out of what information so that they can understand. At the application level, students can apply the knowledge that they have learned and use problem-solving skills. This is also the level for experimentation with their new knowledge, in chemistry labs or robotics, for example. The next level is the analysis level. Students at this level can organize their thoughts and ideas, and they can take their knowledge and see patterns and trends. Students start to use the knowledge and concepts that they have learned to create their own innovative ideas at the synthesis level. The last level at the top of the pyramid is the evaluation level. At this high level, students are using critical thinking to compare ideas and evaluating different outcomes and scenarios. The last model is Gagne's 9 events of instruction. Robert Gagne, an educational psychologist, created the 9 events of instruction. The first event is gaining the attention of your students. This step is more appropriate today than when Gagne created the model due to all the modern day distractions that students face. The next step is to make the students aware of the learning objectives for the lesson. The third step is to activate prior knowledge. Kurt notes that most learning is based upon prior knowledge, and one way to store that knowledge in memory is through repetition and making connections. The fourth step is presenting the content. Kurt suggests presenting information to students in various ways so that the learning needs of the students are met regardless of learning style. The fifth step is providing your learner with guidance. Help your students make the connections between previously learned material and new material so they retain the information and store it in memory. The next step is to elicit the performance, or, as everyone likes to call it, practice. Allow your students to demonstrate their understanding of the lesson by answering comprehensive questions, projects, assignments, and presentations. The seventh step is to provide feedback. Feedback is important to teachers, but also important for the students. Feedback allows the teachers to know if their students are learning the materials, lets them know if they need to make adjustments in the lesson, and lets them know if there is a specific area that may need to be reviewed one more time. For students, it allows them to know if they are understanding the materials or if they may need to ask the teacher for extra help. Assessing the performance is the eighth step. Kurt suggests that teachers assess learning in different ways throughout the lesson to determine if students are meeting the learning objectives. The last step is retention and transfer. Practice, practice, practice. Students may not like the idea of practicing or schoolwork in general, but practicing is what creates those strong connections that is needed to keep the information in memory. Human performance technology and instructional design models can be used in conjunction with one another to provide the ultimate tool for educators to develop and design their instructional lesson plans. The educator can first use HPT to evaluate their current instructional plans and compare them to the levels that they want their instructional plans to be. When they compare the current level of instruction and compare it to the level where they want to be, they will discover what the gaps in their instruction plans are. Educators can take this information and fill in the gaps in their instructional plans. To assist the HPT model, educators can use an instructional design model such as ADDIE, Assure, or the backward design to design their instructional plan. The HPT model shows the educator where they have gaps, and then the instructional design model helps them to assess the instructional plans so that it covers the current gap, but also takes all the important steps of instructional design models into account. Instead of just picking HPT model or an instructional design model, educators should use the HPT model and an instructional design model to produce the best possible instructional plans for your students. Why is using human performance technology in instructional design important? Dr. Joel Gardner explains his reasoning behind why human performance technology and instructional design are both equally important.
Hi, I'm Dr. Joel Gardner, and today we're going to talk about why you should study human performance technology. A lot of times I get questions from students or instructional designers who ask, why should I study human performance technology? I just want to be an instructional designer. Or they might ask, why is there a performance technology course in this instructional design program? Well, today I'd like to tell you my opinion on why it's so important. So why should we study human performance technology if we're just instructional designers? Well, let's talk about it for a minute. I think the first thing to do is to compare the differences and the similarities between instructional design and performance technology. So let's talk about some of these, the differences. So first of all, instructional design, in my opinion, is focused on knowledge. And I would even say also focused on a knowledge gap. In most models, we're trying to figure out what the learning needs are so that we can address those needs. So it's focused on the knowledge gap. Another thing that instructional design is focused on is design for learning. Design for learning. We're learning focused. We want to help people learn and understand and be able to do, right? So design for learning. And then finally, something that I would say is, and maybe we could debate this, but I would say that instructional design is somewhat removed or isolated from the working or performance context in which the performance takes place. And what I mean by that is when a training takes place, when we design a training, it's typically removed from the performance context. It's something that you do outside of the performance context to go back into that context and perform, right? That's usually, this is kind of a corporate sort of approach, right? But if you're in higher ed, it's very removed from whatever is actually happening. And the intent is for that to be, for us to bridge that and transfer that to the environment, right? But it is removed. It's a removed experience. Okay. So this is instructional design. Now let's look at the similarities, but the differences also of what human performance technology typically focuses on. So, for example, when you're focusing on a knowledge gap in instructional design, you're actually focusing more on a performance gap in human performance technology. What do I mean by performance? Well, performance can be defined as behavior and results. Performance is behavior plus results. So you're actually trying to increase the right performance to achieve the results that this organization or this individual might have. Okay, so those are the differences there. The second one, where instructional design designs for learning, performance technology, human performance technology designs for performance. And it's the same thing that we just talked about before. Everything you do in human performance technology is designed to help the individual or the group perform to have that right behavior that produces the desired results. The last thing that I'll say here with comparing instructional design to human performance technology is that where an instructional event is often removed or isolated from the performance environment, in performance technology, it's actually integrated. It integrates into the various variables that actually influence performance. So it's really powerful in helping to aid that performance. So in my mind, having both of these skills really enables you to have the greatest impact possible on the organization that you're designing for. I would also say that good instructional designers become good human performance technologists. And really, in many organizations, these terms are becoming more and more synonymous. You see more and more performance technologist job descriptions, or at least the tasks and abilities of a performance technologist are being integrated into the job descriptions of instructional designers. So it's really important, and employers are looking for these kinds of skills. An employer wants to hire someone that will help to get the results, right? Improve the performance. And design does that, but only for a limited situation. Okay. So a couple of other thoughts why I think it's personally that it's very important to study human performance technology. So I'm just going to draw a picture really quickly here of a scale. So in my experience, and also in all the many degrees and certifications that I've gained over the years, I've realized that for you to be a really impactful, excellent professional, you have to have a balance of skills, okay? And so what I would say is you need to be really proficient at specific skills. And so I would categorize instructional design skills as very specific skills that allow you to be excellent in that very clear ability to create instruction, training, and learning experiences for learners. So that's specific, but you also need to be an excellent, impactful employee. You need to have a lot of general skills too. And my experience is that human performance technology allows you to bridge the specific skills you have into general applications. It allows you to use this knowledge and skills and apply more of that in a general way within an organization. So you got to have both, guys. You have to have both that specific and that general expertise to have impact in the organizations that you serve. And one other side note on that. If you ever have a desire to be a manager or a leader of instructional design or a training function or any other sort of leadership position, this HPT knowledge will really be powerful because it helps you to see beyond just that learning expertise and see how your team is performing, how to help them perform better. Okay, one last thing. I would say, just to drive a couple of points home, I think that there are two major benefits of knowing HPT for an instructional designer. You might be saying, well, yeah, that makes sense, Dr. Gardner, but I just want to do instructional design. I'm not interested in those other things. Well, the first benefit, I would say, is that your ability to design increases. You do better design when you understand the performance context and all of those other variables that impact learning in the learning environment. If you understand that, then you're going to design better. Not only that, your design will integrate better into the organization. A lot of times, many times, when you have a performance need, there's not only one cause. Well, they just need to be trained. Well, that might be true, right? But there may be these other variables that have a big impact. So if you're a designer and you're working with an organization, you're trying to help them move forward, you might be able to say, okay, I think you're right, training's important, but let's just take a look at what's going on and see if there's anything else we can do along with our training to help improve that performance. So you do better design when you understand human performance technology. The second thing is impact. When you understand how to effectively use the tools of human performance technology, your ability to have an impact on the organization that you're serving, the people that you're trying to help move forward in their lives, your impact will increase significantly. So this is my experience over the last 6 or 7 years that I've really understood and grasped human performance technology. So again, I'm Dr. Gardner. This is why I think you should study performance technology and take it seriously as part of your own personal development, your own growth.
I think Dr. Gardner does an excellent job explaining the importance of instructional designers learning about human performance technology and why it is important for educators to use both models. HPT is all about performance and how to improve performance, and instructional design is all about improving your learning. Thank you for joining me as we discuss human performance technology and instructional design in the classroom.